Welcome, lovers! I don't know what I'm doing, but you probably already knew that. And today I'm gonna tell you another story. So anybody who knows me can tell you that I was homeschooled for the majority of my schooling life. When I started school, I was homeschooled, and I didn't go to public school until freshman year of high school. So my sister begged my parents to go to a public high school. Like, she made a whole ass PowerPoint and went through it with my dad to convince him to let her go to a public high school. And when she did as well as she did, they decided, now your little sister doesn't have a choice and she's going to public high school too. So I had a little bit of time where my parents were like, hey, let's start working on, your sleep schedule and your work schedule and make sure you do this within a certain time so you'll be ready for when you go to public school, which is fair, regardless of the fact that I didn't want to do it. But one of the things that they worked really hard to get me used to is getting up at a decent hour. Because being homeschooled for as long as I was, I got used to getting up at 10, 11 in the morning. Because I think I've always had sleeping problems and I just either didn't go to sleep or I couldn't go to sleep until it was late, so I just slept. I legitimately fell asleep in the shower once. My mom was so angry when she got home. But that's not the story we're talking about. So during the whole process of my parents trying to get me used to waking up at an early time in the day to start my schoolwork and then trying to get me to finish it before a certain time, preparation, I had a really difficult time adjusting, which was, again, because of my sleeping issues / bad sleeping habits. But there was one day in particular, I don't know how old I was, but I don't think I was a teen yet. I think I was around 11, because I wasn't quite into the teenage years. But I don't remember if it was because I stayed up on purpose or because I just couldn't sleep, but I was exhausted. I got up and I took a long time to get ready because I kept I couldn't for the life of me stay awake. And I had that same trouble when I went downstairs to start my schoolwork. I got ready, I ate breakfast, and then I had to open up my school books and start. And I started with, I think it was my science or social studies or something like that, because it was a lot of reading, and those were the books where I'd have a couple pages of reading and then answer questions. And because I already, at least at that time, hated reading and was bad at reading because of my dyslexia, I was just even more so falling asleep. On this day, unlike probably about 90% of the rest of the time I was homeschooled, my dad was actually home. Which isn't to say my dad didn't want to be home. His job just had him away from home a lot. I'm not trying to say weird anything about my dad. But my dad was home at a time when he usually wasn't. So I was there trying for the life of me to stay awake and do my school, and I just couldn't do it. I literally collapsed a few times onto the table. I think I hit my head one of the times. Not on the table, but on my own hand. And it was noticeably bad, to the point that my parents were okay, we have to do something. So my mom's over here just trying to think of, logical solutions, maybe we can get her to exercise for a little bit, wake her body up, or give her a bunch of water, or something that would make sense for an 11-year-old. And then my dad just walks over to his little area of his stuff, picks up a 5-hour energy, which, by the way, you're not supposed to give to children, which of course he didn't know. But he has this 5-hour energy, comes up to me, opens it and sits it in front of me, and is drink it. And I'm just there what? Cause I think in my child brain I understood that I probably shouldn't be drinking this. But at the same time, my dad's telling me it's okay to drink it, and I obviously need energy, so I'm okay. So I pick it up and I sniff it, because that's the kind of person I am, and my dad's just drink it, because my mom is exhausted from her work stuff, so she doesn't need to be dealing with me being overly exhausted, and my dad's exhausted from his work, so he's a little impatient, which is fair. It happens sometimes. Again, I'm not trying to say weird shit, because people like to assume that if you say anything bad about your parents on the internet. But it was just kind of okay, I'll drink it. And I drank it, and first of all, it was disgusting. It was nasty. I hated it. But second of all, I wasn't very good at drinking things. Not in the sense that I couldn't drink things, but in the sense that I drink very slowly. You give me a glass of water this full, it'll only have gone down that much after like 2 hours. I drink slowly. And at this point in time, I had never tried to drink anything really quickly like I have since then. So I couldn't just like down the whole thing. And I ended up drinking about half of it, maybe a little bit more than half of it. And then I was like, okay, I guess that'll be fine. I think my dad drank the rest of it. And we're like, all right, back to the day, see how this goes. And so for a little bit, I didn't feel anything other than just like a little bit of gurgling in the tum, because you're not supposed to give it to children. So I was still trying to stay awake, trying to keep up with my work. And then at some point I started feeling a little more awake, and I was like, oh, it's working. Cool. So I was a little more awake, a little more focused, and then all at once it happened. I suddenly felt incomprehensibly, extremely nauseous. Like I had never in my life experienced such severe nausea, let alone all at once. But not only that, I also started seeing things like this. And again, for people who don't know me, I have astigmatism, kind of a bad stigmatism. And if you don't know how that kind of thing works, giving a lot of caffeine or a lot of sugar, like more than your body is used to somebody who has a bad stigmatism is a bad idea, especially for small children. And as you can probably tell from my adult form, I was a small child. But my stigmatism started freaking the hell out. And because my vision was doing this, and I could not make it stop, it made my nausea, that was already worse than I ever knew was possible, got even worse. And then all of my intestinal organs started grumbling and making noises and moving around and hurting and tickling for some reason, and it was just bad. So I got up and like wobbled all around. I don't remember if my parents noticed at that point or after I'd been in the bathroom for a while, but I like carefully made my way to the bathroom and sat down and tried to shit because I thought I probably really needed to, but nothing was coming out because that wasn't the problem. And then I got even more nauseous somehow. Like, as an adult, I understand that it's possible to be that nauseous now. Hello, I've had a baby. But as a kid, this was like, I thought I was gonna die. It was terrible. So then I pull up my pants and turn around and lean over the toilet because I am absolutely positive I'm gonna puke, but nothing comes out. Eventually, my mom or my dad or both are like, why are you in the bathroom so long? Or they like noticed when I went to the bathroom and are now more worried because I've been in there for a while. I honestly don't remember that detail because I was kind of focused, on the nausea. So they knock on the door and I tell them it's okay to come in, and I'm like over the toilet thinking I'm gonna die, which also means as an 11-year-old, I start bawling. I'm like crying, and I'm pretty sure I'm physically like shaking because, you're not supposed to give that to kids. And then my parents like, oh shit, what did we do? Or more like my mom looking at my dad like, what did you do? And my dad being like, what did I do? Because it could only have been the one thing. Now, I don't know if this is my brain exaggerating what happened or if this is actually what happened, but in my mind, being sick and feeling terrible after that lasted 3 days. I could be wrong. It could have lasted like the rest of that day and a little bit into the next, or it could have been 3 days of misery. Either way, that's how I remember it. But like, not only did I end up getting super sick, but because my vision was doing this and my body was doing this, and I was like constantly feeling like I needed to puke, I then couldn't do my schoolwork. Like, usually if you're homeschooled, you do your school anyway, even if you are sick, because you're at home. But like, I physically couldn't. So it's like super hilarious now, at least, not at the time, that what they were trying to do to get me to be able to do my schoolwork made me physically not able to do my schoolwork. So that's the story of the time my dad gave his 11-year-old daughter a 5-hour energy. Actually, because of that happening, I was completely unwilling to try any kind of energy drink, I swear, whatsoever until like last year. I'm not even kidding you, last year. And the only reason I did was because I worked noon to 10 at night, and then drove 7 hours to go visit my fiance before we lived here because I was too excited not to go. That is the only reason. And I still hate the way they taste. Anyways, that's going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, but if you didn't, that's perfectly okay and perfectly understandable, but I hope I'll see you in the next one anyway. So until then, I hope your day is just as lovely as you are. Bye-bye. Oh my goodness. All of those curves and me with no brakes.